Hello there, Romans here and welcome to my next music review. Today is going to be Kamelot, The Shadow Theory.
Music review. Music review.
Kamelot is a metal group from America. They used to have a Norwegian singer, Roy Khan, formerly known from Conception. It's one of my all-time favorite prog metal groups. If you've never heard about them, check them out. And also the group Ark that was created out of Conception. Really great bands. Roy Khan left the group in 2011 approximately, and they got a new Swedish singer who has been with the group ever since. I'm a huge fan of Kamelot. I've heard most of their records with the exception of the first 3 albums and the previous record Haven, which I somehow never got around to listening to. I really like Kamelot. I mean, Fourth Legacy is a great album. Karma is fantastic, especially the title track Karma is one of the best and most recognizable metal songs in my opinion. They've been releasing really good records. The new album, The Shadow Theory, came out yesterday, 6th of April. I've heard it 6 times as of now, so let's review the record. Album opens up with the song The Mission, which is an instrumental, sort of an orchestral piece with a very cinematic feeling. It's very dark and in a way very traditional for a Kamelot. When I was thinking about Kamelot, there aren't really that many groups that are similar in terms of mood and atmosphere. It's got very dark atmosphere, and a few groups that come to mind are Beyond Twilight, especially their first album with Jorn Lande has very similar atmosphere and overall tone. And for example, Episode, a metal project. So if you like Kamelot, check these 2 bands out. And then the following 2 songs are also the first 2 singles of the record, and they seem like Kamelot playing it really safe with these 2 tracks. Phantom Divine has that power metal feel with heavy riffs. It sounds very modern. Also the singer is a little bit reminiscent of Roy Khan, and there are also some grovels, which is nothing really new in the sound of Kamelot, as they've combined their music with some extreme singing, for example on the song March of Mephisto, which is a huge song, I really love it. And especially Raven Light seems like that traditional theatrical Kamelot song. Now, many people seem to think that the new singer is very similar to Roy Khan, and this is what I've been talking about in my Stone Temple Pilots review, that when a band has to replace a singer, they usually try to find almost a copy of a singer. I wouldn't say that these 2 singers are that similar. I think most of the similarities come from the vocal melodies and how they're written. In Raven Light, sometimes I tremble like a little child. Roy Khan, in my opinion, was one of the most distinctive metal singers. He had that sort of a theatrical, dramatic voice with a lot of tension, but a lot of it came from how the songs were supposed to sing. And I think that this hasn't really changed with the new singer and with the songs that Kamelot writes today. And the new singer also delivers the song in a similar manner, but I wouldn't say he necessarily copies Roy Khan. It's more about how the songs are supposed to be sang. And he's got a lot of his own stuff, so I think that they are not necessarily similar singers, they are just singers who kind of sing similar stuff. And I think that the new singer does a great job. I really like his voice, even though it's a little different, he maintains that sort of a dark overtone that the record requires. I personally don't think that if Roy remained in the group, their new stuff would be better, or that the songs would benefit from having him on board more. I think that it would be equally good. Also, these 2 tracks are very traditional in terms of a style, and Kamelot is in my opinion, one of the most distinctive metal groups. When we talk about all the metal bands that are quite known, Kamelot is one of those bands where you can immediately recognize their sound, their style, where they seem to combine power metal with some progressive elements, with some oriental elements, and it's generally very dark music. But this is a sort of a double-edged sword, because being unique is very important, but on the other hand there's very little room for experimentation, for development, and therefore most of their records are pretty much the same thing again and again. Of course, their unique blend of metal is what made us fall in love with them in the first place, so it's just kind of a natural that they keep doing the same stuff, but I personally don't really have a problem with that. The next track, Amnesiac, starts with a very heavy riff, and it has really fantastic chorus with a sort of a techno-like keyboards that kind of remind me of a German metal group, A Life Divided. Check their song The Great Dance. Birds to Embrace has a very symphonic / orchestral beginning with some oriental elements, and then the song gets into a sort of like a folk metal part, and this is something pretty new in the sound of Kamelot. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never heard that before. At the same time, it sounds very modern, and I like the chorus. This is exactly my type of power metal, and I also really like that last chorus that seems to be sang by children's choir. In Twilight Hours is the ballad of the record, but in my opinion this is probably the biggest cliche on the record. You've got like this dark and sad ballad with the female featuring, and it has been done so many times before it doesn't really work for me. Also, there are 2 featurings on the record. I haven't talked about them because I don't know the artists. Kevlar Skin is one of those heavier tracks on the record. What I like about Kamelot is when the song is really heavy but melodic at the same time. Another song like that is Mindful Remedy, which also features growls. And then there's a track, The Proud and the Broken, which is slightly more in a prog metal territory. The song Static has also that orchestral / folk feeling, and it's essentially a pop song with a very catchy chorus. It's got some predictable arrangements, but it is a really great song. I don't mind the predictability. And a similar song is Vespertine, which you can say goes in a vein of speed and power metal. I'm personally not a big fan of speed and power metal. That's a music I used to listen to when I was growing up, but it's one of the most predictable music genres. It's like, take any melody from a cartoon, give it double bass, fast guitars, high-pitched voice, and you've got a speed metal song. And this is pretty much what you get with like 120% of the bands. They all sound the same, it's always the same shit, and it's, you know, so predictable and so happy that it kind of makes me vomit. This song goes in the same vein, but it's not that happy, it's much darker, and the melody, the chorus is just so beautiful. It actually gave me goosebumps when I was listening to it. It's so epic, it makes me feel this small. Definitely my favorite track on the record, and I just wish more power metal bands would try to write songs like that. Songs that have great melodies but are not so happy. One song I forgot to mention is Stories Unheard, which is probably the most theatrical song on the record. There are like slower parts combined with heavier parts, giving it a very dynamic feeling. The last track of the record is Ministrum, which ends the record in a similar way it started. It's a very orchestral, more cinematic piece. It feels more like an ending of a movie rather than a record. There isn't anything that would make Kamelot fans disappointed with the new record. I think it's a very solid album. When I was listening to this record, it made me think about how long ago I've been actually listening to a metal record. Currently I'm listening to Rage Against the Machine, but that's something different. I mostly listen to rock, progressive music, and solo metal is not that often in my playlist anymore. But this record is really great. It made me hungry to go back and listen to all the records from Kamelot. So if you're a fan of this group, you will love this new album. If you have never heard about this group, then what the hell are you waiting for? So for me, this is 8 points out of 10. Great album. In Slovak, the shadow theory means tieňová teória. If
you
liked
this
review,
don't
forget
to
like,
share,
subscribe,
you
can
follow
me
on
Facebook,
or
Instagram,
you
can
find
the
links
to
both
in
description
below. If you have heard the record or you haven't, if you agreed with me or you didn't, you can leave a comment in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe, as I'm gonna have my own official video released next week. Also with the release of my debut album, it's going to be prog rock music without guitars. Instead there's drums, bass, saxophone and keyboards, which is a pretty unique combination. So be sure to check it out, and thanks a lot for watching. And don't forget the bloopers. Hello there, Roman's here and welcome to my neck.
welcome to my neck.
Ešte raz to dám. Ešte raz. And it's
You can
fa
you on comment
in description. Description.
no pojď.